Hi, everybody. Welcome to the live stream with the Pleiadian Council. Dante is here, and thank you so much for joining this week. So, just checking that are we live? Speaking as if we're live. Yeah, okay, it's live.
Yeah, it's live now.
Okay, cool. Hello, everybody. My name is Dante. I channel the Pleiadian Council. Most of you are probably familiar with these streams. If you're new, welcome. And a reminder to check out the website dantestarshine.com for information on private sessions and the channeling course, which is currently enrolling. You can also purchase the guidebooks Live and Love on Earth, which goes into great detail on many subjects the Pleiadian Council regularly talk about, and some that they don't so frequently talk about, giving a deep metaphysical breakdown and many tools to activate greater mastery and psychic gifts within this life. So check it out. These live streams can be joined on Zoom for a donation of $27 or $13 if you share the stream with your networks. And then you can have a sort of discounted live interaction with the Pleiadian Council asking your questions. We accept questions that are sent by email, and if the question really resonates with the themes of the transmission, we'll include them. Questions on YouTube can be included too. But again, as the stream evolves, we're really orienting towards questions that really align with what we are focusing on. This isn't a free energy readings channel. This isn't a tell me about my energy or tarot kind of a channel. At least this particular stream is not. So thanks for understanding and supporting in exchanges. If you feel like you resonate with this and you want to dive into your personal topics, I'm happy to support you and we can do a session. So I think that's all. I hope you enjoy the transmission. Check out the website again. I look forward to hearing from you. And if you enjoy this transmission, please like and send to some friends, share, subscribe, turn on the notifications because the YouTube algorithm isn't what it once was. And to get the updates as to when this stream will be happening on dantestarshine.com, there's an email list that you can sign up for on the front page. All right. So, and donations are always welcome. You can find on the contact/book a session page. Thanks for Michael for hosting. And yeah, I think we're going to dive in. Hello, and we say good day to you at this moment of your time. We at the Pleiadian Council, and we thank you for allowing this transmission to take place, for tuning into it, receiving it, as it grounds our energy and your own higher self's energy into this reality, thus raising the frequency of your earth. And it is also an opportunity for us to gain insight and raise our vibration through the reflections that you offer to us. And for this, we thank you very much. And Source is appreciative that these transmissions take place as well, we would say. So today we have two subjects, actually. And the first is leaping into new timelines. And we pun this way as today you experience the 29th of February, which only happens every 4 years. It is a sort of cryptic date that works to adjust so that your planet can fit the exact time of the sun's and Earth's interaction into a fitting model. And this is one of several sorts of experiences that are nearly perfect. For example, your moon cycle is 29 and some days, and your solar cycle is 365 and some days. It almost comes to a number that is perfect, but it is a little bit off. And this should reflect to you what perfection really is. It's slightly imperfect. As so many of these mathematical and astronomical and different sorts of laws and principles that you may come to understand will reflect this. They are slightly irregular, slightly not exact, yet also predictable and fitting a certain pattern to some extent. And this expression of being just slightly off base shows you that something about your reality is not exactly perfect in and of itself. And this concept of the slight flaw, the slight deviation, also is pointing you towards where you actually have room to use that slight deviation to make a fundamental shift in your frequency. There is also a sort of flaw in the entire concept of time itself, in that you are shifting through so many billions of parallel realities based on the decisions that you and others make. Every decision creates a split off into different potential timelines. And even though the consciousness that you identify with and experience only witnesses one of these infinite timelines, it doesn't mean that these other timelines are not real. And contemplating this and understanding its implications actually gives you the power to leap or to jump between different timelines. And the core energy at work here is in your frequency. So frequency is about feelings, emotions, thoughts, and actions. Some of you have asked this before, is frequency just a thought? Is frequency just a feeling? Frequency expresses at all of these levels. It is very deep in this way, and it must align on all of these levels. So as you go through your day, you have expectations about what is to happen. And generally, these expectations align with the outcomes. You learn that certain things happen at certain times, and these schedules and rhythms often help you to create a sense of balance within your own being. And part of why things play out the way that you do is, or the way that they do rather, is because of your own conscious influence on them, or rather the influence of your own consciousness on experiences and phenomena as they unfold. You live your life thinking that certain things will happen and feeling as if they will happen, and having a more or less balanced and neutral attitude towards them, and then certainly they come about. And the reason why some things that you desire so extremely don't come about is because you are either desperately attached to them, or that you do not believe in their possibility, or you do not believe in your deservingness of them. And all of these different attitudes become frequencies that prevent the manifestation of certain outcomes that are not really that far off from where you are. Understand, in the grand scope of reality, these subtle shifts in the outcomes are minuscule compared to the degree to which realities vary. There are planes of Earth that are so far off from the plane of Earth that you're on now. And the timeline in which certain outcomes are your experience are only slight deviations. But in your mind, your definitions make it seem as if having those outcomes is something so far and so grandiose. And this attitude of grandiosity, of magnificence of certain experiences is helpful in the moment when you are appreciating what is, but when you're appreciating what could be, and you decide that what could be is somehow more magnificent and more grandiose than what is, then that gap between the present timeline and the preferred timeline becomes bigger, and it becomes far more complicated and difficult to jump between one timeline and another. You may hear this concept of jumping a timeline and think that it is something that is tremendously challenging and advanced, though we want to remind you that you jump timelines all the time. The key into mastery of this is to understand that you've always been doing this your entire life. It is not as if you're learning a new skill. It's that you're becoming aware of how reality works and what you've been doing. Think of moments in which you thought that you had lost something very significant, but you remained neutral and calm, and then what you thought you lost was found. Many times, yes, your feelings are an indication of intuition about what timeline you're in, but sometimes these sudden shifts in your feelings are actually you moving from a timeline in which this object was truly lost into one in which the object is in a different location, and you find it. This is how jumping timelines works. You have to be neutral to what you don't prefer in order to move into a timeline in which what you do prefer is within reach. And say, for example, then that you want to manifest a certain sort of relationship or a certain sort of new job. When you feel desperate that this experience cannot be yours, and you spend your time feeling down about it, then it won't be yours. But if you feel neutral to what is in the moment, and you feel a sense of indifference towards the lack, and instead you feel excited about the experience of what is coming, not in a way that you see the new thing as a sort of holy grail or saving grace, but as in a way of expanding the bliss of source that you already are. We'll say that again. You don't see the new experience as a holy grail or as a saving grace, but as a means of expanding the love, the bliss, the joy that you already are by nature as a default, as an expression of an unconditionally loving source. And that is the clearest submission to that source and the clearest step forward into a state of neutrality that allows you to embrace all that is and thus embody the frequency of what you prefer to become. So by neutralizing your feelings of aversion to lack and embracing what you desire and feeling as if it's already yours, then you must take the actions. This is where so many of these manifestation and law of attraction teachings miss out, is they give this sense that you can sit around feeling good and what you want will just come to you. If you sit around just feeling good, absolutely something will just come to you. But you live in a physical reality, so you have to take actions that align energetically with the outcomes that you intend. So if the outcome is a new relationship, you date. If the outcome is a new job, you apply for them, or you put out your creative skills and personal ads and sharing with others and networking so that that's what you come up with. And you stay neutral in this process, allowing yourself to express and release the challenging or negative emotions as they arise. And thus, then you align with the excitement about what you prefer to experience, knowing that excitement itself is the highest frequency of neutralizing energy. And if you want to let go of any emotion or belief that doesn't serve you, you have to find a way to make what you're doing exciting. And the sooner you do this, the sooner you can align with that new experience and shift into that timeline in which it happens. Again, you're doing this already every single day. You're experiencing every single day is split off between many different timelines. Everything that happens, there's a series of different outcomes. The outcome that you align with depends upon your frequency. And sometimes the experience that you don't prefer is actually the experience that you need. So that is the final thing that we will say to allow you to shift timelines. Sometimes by finding a way to appreciate the outcome that you don't prefer, you'll see that you're gaining experience, gaining lessons, making connections, or gathering information so that you can do the next step. And sometimes this gathering of information shows you that what you thought was exciting isn't the most exciting thing that's really there for you. And that's why what you thought you preferred isn't what came to be. So also be open to the changes and fluctuations in your own ideas and feelings of excitement, because they're not really something consistent. Again, they are meant to continue to generate more and more energetic momentum. This isn't an outward momentum, it is an inward momentum that brings you into higher frequency energies, as in a deeper connection with the source, a deeper sense of unconditional love, a deeper sense of wonder, amusement, appreciation of existence itself, knowing that you are an essential part of existence and part of an intricate web of living light and love. Now, the other thing that we would like to share about a bit today is that you are in the age of discernment. And this is also very important in aligning with the timelines that resonate with you. You are moving from the age of information to the age of discernment. You might think that you're moving from the age of information to the age of artificial intelligence, and we'll say that certainly artificial intelligence is still a part of your future, but really the biggest necessity that is birthed out of the age of information is the age of discernment, because you have an infinite amount of information before you. And you cannot read every book, you cannot read every article, you can't listen to every song, you can't watch every video, and so on and so forth. You can't have a conversation with every person. And some of you go through a period of life in which you simply go through the motions of taking what comes until either it becomes overwhelming because so much is coming. You've raised your frequency to a point that you attract more than you can digest. And another variation is that you simply feel bored because you're not actively participating in the selective process. So this selective process is necessary. You need to be able to sort through the information and the ideas that are really going to help and serve you in aligning with your own preferred timeline and those that are not. And the biggest question is, does this really excite me? Fear will tell you that there is so much more that you need to know than you really need to know. And this fear of missing out is one of the biggest shadows of your present age. You think that if you don't know about all of the trends, that you are missing out on something very crucial. And therefore, you need to be able to let go of this fear and recognize that source consciousness is your nature and will be there whether or not you know this or that new thing, whether or not you watch this or that video. And over consuming information is actually causing an energetic stagnation and a sense of discontent in many people. Many people have watched so many videos and listened to so many tapes and so on and so forth that there is a chronic state of mental indigestion in which they have, in theory, learned so much, but in practice implemented so little. They can list thousands of facts about all of the things taking place in your world and on metaphysical planes, but they cannot live this information in a way that is truly fulfilling. So in order to move into this age of discernment, you really need to ask yourself, is this information serving me? Is it exciting me? Is it bringing me into alignment with the timelines that I really prefer? Or is it sending me into a state of simply consuming information for the sake of it, or helping me compensate for a feeling of inadequacy that I might not know something? Remember that you don't need to know everything. You need to know what's relevant for you. And this will help you very much in staying aligned with the timelines that you prefer. We thank you very much for tuning into this transmission and implementing this information. And we hope that it serves you very much. And now we would like to ask, in which ways can we support you with your questions, comments, musings, and inquiries, or whatever, when you wish.
Thanks so much for such a profound transmission. Very, very cool distinctions. Really looking forward to listening to it again. So we have a couple of pre-written questions and some YouTube questions. And the first one is, can you talk about menopause for women, what it means and what is going on, and any permission slips for like hot flashes or anything that could help?
This is a signal of entering a time of maturity. And in this phase of life, one is more tuned into the connection to spirit and the timelessness of spirit. There is a letting go, and many of the challenges of this phase come with an attachment to many of the qualities of youth. Understand that in going through this transition, you are gaining as much as you feel that you are losing. And so allowing yourself to appreciate the transition will be very helpful. It can be also useful to take different supplements to balance the body during this time, some such being ashwagandha, shatavari, tulsi, and there can be others catered to unique circumstances. As well, it is very important to experience an adequate amount of magnesium. Magnesium comes in many different forms. Food-based magnesium is ideal and is most abundant in foods like cacao and avocados. But you can also supplement magnesium if you don't get enough of it in your diet. But of course, a healthy, balanced diet is the best way to go through any sort of life transitions.
All right, very cool. Thank you so much. The next question is, can you talk about the psychology and energy of blame and having or pointing to a scapegoat, and if that can be used in either a positive or a negative way, or potentially both?
Well, the positive expression of blame that we can highlight would be the French Revolution and other such experiences of this nature. When it is absolutely known who is causing certain problems for groups and for societies, and practical action steps are done to make those changes happen. Now, this is not as often the case. More often, you experience a sort of blame that is simply a means of externalizing internal feelings of guilt and shame and powerlessness. It can be any such mixture of these different feelings. Fear is often a feeling involved in these feelings in general. So if one feels powerless to change or does not want to look at one's own role in certain experiences, then others will point the finger. This is very common in your personal relationships, in that there may be a ongoing conflict between partners or communities that no one wants to own their role in. And this is the ultimate truth in this matter, is that everybody plays some role. Everybody influences situations to some degree. And there can be certain circumstances in which one individual is the most stubborn and the most resistant to change and is actually the root of all of the problems. But there's just as many circumstances in which many individuals are influencing each other and their own shadows are getting involved. So those who blame the most are usually those who take the least amount of responsibility. They don't have a sense of accountability for their own shadows. And in a narcissistic way, they don't want to see that something might be negative or harmful or bad about themselves. And so their refusal to look in the mirror causes them to send that energy to others. And the same traits that they deny in themselves, they see in other people. And this must be met with compassion, because it is only compassion and a loving embrace that will make it safe for anyone to look at their shadows. Why these situations become so deeply polarized is because it becomes a back and forth blame cycle, and one person may respond to another person with just as much blame. To break out of the cycle, compassion must be brought to all beings.
Wow, so profound. Wow, I'm really impressed. Um, the next question is, which might be a little related, is can you comment on or read into the energy and updates of what's going on with the plans for what's called the Great Reset, as mentioned by, for example, the World Economic Forum?
There are many different ways that your world economies are being influenced. And there is a sort of economic war that is playing out between the East and West, so to speak. But even those concepts are rather vague. It is particularly the United States versus China and Russia. And there are many other nations that are catering to both of these different sides and staying rather neutral, wanting to keep their loyalties to both sides intact in some way. And there will be great levels of continued inflation that will take place around the world that will lead to a cultural revolution globally. So it will get worse before it gets better, but you cannot keep asking questions. You need to eventually start to actively participate. Because if you don't, nothing will change.
All right, great point. Thank you so much. Another question we got is, if you were in our shoes, what type of foods would you eat on a daily basis?
It depends on what part of the world we would be in and what would be most fresh, what would be most suited for the climate, the time of year, and our age, our body, our genetics. So this is why anyone who dogmatically ascribes to a trend diet or even a traditional sort of diet is ultimately very partial in their assessment, because all human bodies are different and all environments affect the human body in different ways according to seasonal changes as well. But in general, we would eat as many fresh and living foods as possible, many fruits and vegetables. We would have a complete balance of fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. We would eat regularly, and we would make sure that what we eat is free from toxins and is what our body could digest most easily without complications and indigestion.
Wow, really amazing advice. Thank you so much. Another question is if you have any recommendation for specific ways of doing detox or detoxification programs.
Eating fruits and vegetables and healthy grains will detox you. Regular exercise supports you in detox as well. You may do many sorts of detox. It can involve herbs, it can involve colonics and colon hydrotherapy. It can involve traditional Ayurvedic or Chinese medicine or other traditional herbal cleanses. All of these work according to the needs of the body, and it depends on what toxins you've accumulated. So you need to assess, what types of toxins am I carrying? Is it coming from the environment? Is it coming from stress? Is it coming from specific drugs and substances I've ingested? Is it coming from a general unhealthy diet and indigestion? This will point you towards what detox is most appropriate for you. And understand that you're constantly accumulating toxins. So detoxing is a perpetual process and not a once and done sort of a thing. But you don't need to overdo it either. Focusing on nourishment is also crucial for detoxification.
Thank you so much. Great points. The next question is, can you address the potential mechanisms of when the mind goes blank in different types of scenarios?
If the mind goes blank, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's what needs to happen. After all, it is that void of thoughtlessness that points you back towards the origins of consciousness. So we would encourage you to enjoy those moments. And if you find yourself in a state of void when others are expecting you to respond, question, do I really need to respond in this moment? You might be putting yourself under too much pressure to perform in a certain way or to know things that are not within your realm of knowledge. Your world has far too much expectation around knowing and understanding everything. And you need to respect your unknowing. It is your fear that causes you to think you need to know everything. And sometimes having no response or being in a realm of contemplation and emptiness is far more helpful than coming to definitive answers or responses.
So cool. Thank you so much. We have 2 questions left. The first one is from a karmic or soul journey perspective, what can be potentially the value of what many would perceive as a very average life, or where not much potential seems to have been released or any big dreams achieved?
The soul is experiencing its own self-development and its own process of discovering in all sorts of lifetimes, whether it's an average lifetime or an above average lifetime. These assessments are human-made constructs. We would like to say that there are certain people who live very average seeming lives, but experience tremendous spiritual expansion and growth because they have deep and authentic relationships. And in their spare time, they let themselves delve absolutely deep into their passions. What is important is not what you do, it's how you feel in doing it. And some people do not need to reach for very beyond the norm experiences in order to experience the love, passion, and bliss of Source. In fact, there's many people who will find that bliss and joy can be things that they experience among mundane moments of life. And this is a great gift and asset. So if you're judging your life, you're not understanding what the formula is. If you think that you cannot experience passion amidst the normal things of your life, you're not understanding what that concept is. And perhaps tuning in deeper into the depth of your heart and witnessing your heart will allow you to know that frequency of passion. It is the essence of your being. It is what you experience in your deepest connections with others. It is what you experience when you see something profound in nature or even in art or a film. It doesn't have to be the most out of the ordinary experience. But if that's what you seek, then let your heart gravitate towards that. But don't judge and compare yourself to other people's lives. If you were supposed to be someone else, you wouldn't be yourself. And if you wouldn't be yourself, you wouldn't be where you are right now, hearing these words.
Wow, that's such a beautiful answer. I'm curious myself because this reminds me of a time where I had a conversation with a mentor where we had a session where he said that I had a previous life, or whatever the mechanics behind that is, where I basically lived alone for most of my life, and the purpose of that life was to build up patience and the ability to be, or embrace solitude. Is that sort of related to what you were just describing?
Somehow, it does connect in that it is solitude that was a very often chosen pathway for mystics, and it's still a pathway that many who are more spiritually oriented will decide to seek as being without the influence and bustle of so many others allows you to tune more completely into the source within yourself. It allows you to come to understand that profundity can be found in simplicity, and these two things are not contradictory. For example, in Zen Buddhism, people have mystical experiences staring at a white wall. This is the ultimate permission slip in your world that comes to express this fundamental truth to your world. Not all of you have to become Zen Buddhists, and this isn't the foundation of what we teach. But we want you to know that part of the diversity in your world is so that certain branches of thought can fill in your knowledge base. And this branch reflects that truth, that the mystical essence of reality is not always in the big bangs and fireworks and wondrous and brilliant displays. It can be found in the simplest and plainest of experiences because it's the essence of who you are. And this is a very important path for people who find they cannot appreciate life. If you find that you sense that you know things are beautiful and wonderful, but your heart isn't fully in it, it may be very useful for you to spend some serious time alone so that you can tune in with yourself and know that beauty, mystery, and wonder isn't in the outside, it's in the eye of the beholder. And the eye of the beholder is the observer in your heart.
Well, I can only speak for myself, but that makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much. It ties a little bit in with the last question, which is that if we have some very seemingly big goals and we suspect that there's some limiting beliefs that potentially could stop us, what would you recommend as the best way to move forward?
You can identify those beliefs and look to the counter arguments for them. When you deal psychologically with beliefs, we always suggest look to the opposite belief and find evidence for that to be true. If you believe I can't do such and such a thing, write down on a piece of paper, I can do such and such a thing, and imagine all of the evidence that supports that being true. This serves you so far, but the biggest act of transmutation happens with that frequency of excitement in action. So, like the children's book some of you may have read, the little engine that could thought it couldn't. But then the thought came, I can. I think I can. I think I can. And the engine then tried to go up the treacherous hill, and the engine found that it could. It's that thought that I can do it matched with the action. And you'll have to do that again and again and again. Many times you will delay yourself with permission slips without giving yourself permission. This is a way of making it seem as if you're doing something to protect yourself from facing yourself. Sometimes you have such a great fear of success because you have yet to be celebrated for your very essence and for who you are. And almost always, others won't celebrate you for you until you celebrate you for you. Has anyone ever been on a stage surrounded by applause as they bemoan and frown?
Yeah, very, very good point. Um, just the last thing is that reminds me of the saying, which I'm not sure is true. Maybe you can help with that. Is that the hummingbird is scientifically not supposed to be able to fly according to how big the wings are, but it seems like, well, it doesn't know, so it flies anyway. Is that sort of a little bit what you mentioned?
In a sense, yes, that's a reflection of that truth. It's not what you know that stops you, it's what you know that just isn't so, to quote, more or less, paraphrase rather, the Mark Twain, yes?
Yeah.
So you must allow yourself to open to the belief that you can. Those who don't have a sense of belief that they can't will do it. And this is part of why superhuman sorts of strength can come through at certain moments. In moments of absolute survival, the human instinct is to try, no matter how absurd it seems, that one cannot survive. Try anyway. And that intensity brings one so into the moment that the thought that I can't do this is non-existent. And therefore, people can have levels of strength, agility, and intelligence that was never common to them because the circumstance erases for a moment their doubt in themselves.
All right, I think we should leave it here. There's no more questions, and that was so profound. So, on behalf of everybody who has watched and listened to this, thank you so much for this transmission. We deeply appreciate what you bring to us, and we look forward to next time.
And our great thanks and appreciation to all of you as well. We thank you for tuning into this transmission, applying it, living it, being it, as this energy will transform you, and thus you will transform your world, and thus this galaxy and this universe will transform in turn. This co-creation allows for this mutual expansion to take place. So we share our gratitude with you, and we hope that you may live in appreciation, joy, and gratitude yourselves. Okay, that was just wonderful and dandy.
It was. So many cool
Thanks
questions.
for being here, everybody. Yeah, good questions, good information, good co-creation, I would say, overall. So, oh God, what's happening right now? So, I would like to say that if you want to let us know when would be great for you to tune into the streams, please do so, because we're experimenting with different days. We went with the Thursday this week. Last week it was a Saturday. Some people want weekends, some people want weekdays. I want to hear from you. So send me a message or an email when it's going to be great for you for the stream. And you can go to the website here and you can put in your email address, and then you can sign up for the email list. And when we do have the streams, you'll get a notification, as well as some other goodies that come through sometimes. And here's so much information about the work, about the channeling course that's enrolling, about the sessions that I'm offering, about the book that was released going on 2 years ago. Goes greatly into detail on the Pleiadian Council's metaphysics and understanding, and is a great asset for our awakening journey. And you can book a session here. There's a link to a calendar. And there's a link to contact and also donate to support the channel if you enjoy and benefit from these sessions and want to help me continue to share it. So I really appreciate it. And
And by
yeah,
the way, I just want to mention like the value of having a private session. I mean, it just cannot be underestimated. I think it was 3 years ago where I had a session with you and Pleiadian Dante, where I had a very, very serious foot injury. I could barely walk in the morning, and the Pleiadians channel through you two rather simple things that I hadn't found from like literally 20 plus hours of research. And once I started doing them, within a couple of days, I could walk again with no pain whatsoever. And I was like, what the bleep is going on?
it's super cool.
Yeah, I mean, and and still to this day, because I'm still curious about this condition. I haven't found anybody who mentioned those two things. And so I just wanted to mention to you guys that please, if you have anything like that, whether it's psychological or physical, give it a shot because you just might be very, very surprised as I was.
Yeah, it's always a confirmation to keep doing this when people come for sessions, as it's really incredible to witness the changes that come up in people's lives. And sometimes just through tuning into the transmissions, the energy can impact people so much in the moment. And I've taught people how to channel as well, and then that energy just ripples out as they channel for others. So there's a lot of good happening, and it's way different than having the interactions in this space, even though for some who come here, it's just as life touching. So anyway, thanks a lot for your support. It makes these miracles even more possible. I think that's it. I think that's a wrap. Thanks everyone for watching. And again, the thumb, the like, we love those. It boosts us in the algorithm. So it also happens when you share it on YouTube, on other platforms, on your social media pages. The more the link appears in other places, the more that we get boosted. And subscribing and the bell notifications is also great. And yeah, and thanks for Michael for hosting and reading the questions and bringing some great questions yourself. It's always great to have you here. And we'll catch you all next time.